Chapter 2. Later, as they lay on their backs next to the river gate, Pong tried to remind Samkit how great that mango had been. The sun had started to set, and their golden brown cheekbones and shins were turning the same purple color as the sky. Samkit touched his bruised cheek and winced. "Why do I have to be friends with such a loudmouth?" Pong grinned. "Because no one else will be friends with you." Samkit reached over and flicked him on the ear. "Ow," said Pong, scooting away. "You know, between the two of us, you've actually got the bigger mouth." "And you'll notice that I keep it shut around the guards and mean kids," said Samkit. "Sometimes you have to go along with things if you don't want to get mashed into pulp. But you just never know when to shut up and let things go." "I know," said Pong, folding one arm under his head, "but we earned that mango. It's stupid that we even have to wait for them to fall. The guards should just let us climb the tree. It's almost like they want us to have to fight over them." He put 2 fingers on the bone in the center of his rib cage. "Stuff like that, I don't know, it just makes me so mad. I get this burning feeling right here." "It's probably gas," said Samkit. "Look, next year those stupid girls will turn 13, and then they'll be out of here. We'll be the oldest ones, and we can eat our mangoes in peace." Children born at Nam Wan were released when their mother's sentence was up, or when they turned 13, whichever came first. But Pong didn't care about the girls' release date. If anything, it was just one more bit of unfairness that those 2 would get out first. It would be 4 more years until Pong and Samkit turned 13. 4 years. It felt like forever. Pong turned his face from Samkit and looked past the bars of the river gate. Nam Wan sat a little upriver from Chitana City. From here, Pong could just see the lights starting to come on, one by 1,000, until there were 2 cities, one on the shore, one in the water, both made of light. Normally, at this time of night, the 2 of them would take turns sharing their dreams about what sort of life they'd lead in the city after they got out, the food they'd eat, the boats they'd buy. Samkit would have at least 3 boats, one to live on, one to fish from, and 1 speedboat with a custom motor that would be good for nothing except driving ridiculously fast. Pong liked to picture himself as a grown man with a good job and a full belly, lounging in the back of that slick speedboat with Samkit at the wheel. A single orb of glass swung from the mango tree overhead. Its dim violet glow couldn't compete with the bright blaze across the river. Compared to the city, Nam Wan was like a cave. Was it any wonder that life wasn't fair for them? How could fairness find its way to them through all that darkness? But once they got out, under those lights, life would be different. They would eat mangoes they didn't have to fight for. When they asked for help, people would listen. Samkit turned onto his side with a groan. "Ugh, every bone in my body hurts. You've got to promise me to lie low, at least until after next week." "What's next week?" Samkit rolled his eyes and shook his head. "You'll sit up and listen to mangoes for hours, but you can't even hear what people are saying when they're standing right next to you." "Didn't you hear the cooks today? The governor is coming here next week for an official visit." Pong sat up, ignoring the ache in his ribs. "The governor." "I know," said Samkit, licking his lips. "We're actually going to get some decent food for once. The cook said they're going to grill a bunch of chickens." But Pong couldn't think about food. He was thinking about the guest. Most people in Chitana looked up to the governor. After what he'd done for their city, how could they not? The man was a hero. But to Pong, he was even more. Pong had only ever seen a portrait of him in a textbook, but even from the picture, he could tell that the governor was someone who would understand him. He would care about the unfairness at Nam Wan. If he knew how things were, he'd change them. That's just the kind of person he was, someone who made things right. Pong's wild and secret wish, the one he didn't tell even Samkit about because it sounded so silly, was that one day he'd work for Chitana's great leader. He imagined himself standing at the governor's side as an assistant or an advisor or whatever sort of jobs grown people had. Together, they would make everyone's life brighter. The fact that the governor was coming to Nam Wan for a visit couldn't be just a coincidence. It had to be a sign. It had to mean that one day Pong's wish would come true. "Hey," said Samkit, snapping his fingers in front of Pong's face. "You got that funny look of yours right now, and I don't like it. Listen, you got to promise me that you're going to keep your mouth shut from now on. No more trouble, okay?" He leaned closer and bugged his eyes out. "Okay." Pong squinted at the city, making all the dots of light blur into one. "Okay," he said. "No more trouble." At the time, it sounded like a perfectly reasonable promise.